I could have freed more. In 1789, the Constitutional Convention. American democracy was born in Selma in 1965. American democracy is just 39 years old. We don't live under Japan. We live under King democracy. Jefferson's democracy has no export value in the world today. No one wants a democracy that Selma considered 3/5 human. No one wants a democracy that coexists with slavery. No one wants a democracy where women cannot vote. Or when one is old enough to serve in the military but not old enough to vote. This democracy where all can vote. 18-year-olds can vote. College students can vote where you go to college, residency rights. But blacks and browns can vote, and no more language barriers for those who speak a language other than English. It's a pivotal moment in America's history. We speak of the session with the Mel Gibson Passion. The Bible is for Jewish people a history book. It documents the travails of Israel with God in history. For many of us, it is a mystery book. We often speak of, I am a biblical scholar. That means that you know of God's walk with the Israelites. But you should not be a PhD in God's walk with somebody else, and ignorant of God's walk with you. They have their Red Sea, we have our Atlantic Ocean, and our Middle Passage. They have their Jordan River, we have our Mississippi and Missouri rivers. God is not just a was, God is a is. And while there was a passion on Calvary of the historical Jesus and the crucifixion, there's also a passion at Edmund Pettus Bridge. He came that we might have life, and that more abundantly. And our oppressors did not give out nails in Rome. They still got some nails left. And as surely as the crucifixion one Friday led to resurrection on a Sunday morning, we still could not stop mean men from oppressing the innocent. And they cannot stop God from removing stones and resurrecting them. And so, our faith is a living faith. Why do I come back here every year? Of Africa, the African Union Conference. While communicating, our mothers and fathers have said. Scripture says, when the children of Israel got across the Jordan River, and just as he had opened up the Red Sea, opened up the Jordan River, into the future. Let's don't worry about history. We're with the future. We're with tomorrow. God said to the prophet, the value of those rocks is that they are memorial. They are a source of memory. You know how you got across the river. How I got across the river. The Bible says, but in time to come, your children will ask you, what are these stones? You must tell them, lest they will not know. If they do not know, then they will honor false gods and attribute their freedom to reasons other than the truth, which is that God stopped the water. Yes, they'll begin to worship themselves. And they'll become idolatrous. They will upset the real God. And he will become, and when God becomes angry, the heavens cry out and the sun ceases to shine at noonday. You don't want to make God angry. And so teach the children of these stones. 39 years ago, loss of lives and resources and priorities in Vietnam. We lost 55,000 lives. We left bewildered, burying our young, shifting from a war on poverty to a war in Vietnam 39 years ago. Today, lessons unlearned from peace dividend and surplus to mission. Today, embarrassingly involved in a coup in Haiti, removing an elected president to a coup in Central Africa, collaborating with terrorists, CIA supplying arms, defies comprehension. They come from Haiti. Two sets of rules. If Cubans come, Cubans get an extended hand and a subsidy. Haitians a bald fish and a jail. And so we go not just across the bridge today, but we go to visit the Haitian refugees Tuesday and Wednesday because it's a living struggle. Marines that are protecting an empty palace today. Another president 2 weeks ago. Today we seek to heal the breach, to build the bridges, to close the gaps. Dr. King was speaking of the fourth stage when he was taken away from us. First stage, we're in legal slavery, 246 years battle. Second stage, we're in legal Jim Crow apartheid. Third stage, the right to vote. Fourth stage, access to capital, industry, and technology. Here we stand today, out of slavery, out of Jim Crow, with right to vote, without capital. And therefore, recycling poverty and pain. Alabama, 39 years later. The state 30% African American. 19 appellate judges, 0 African American. District attorneys, 0 African American. Sheriffs, 5. The state 30% black, 39 years later. Do it all. We're on our feet, still marching over mountains, through valleys, across rivers, surviving cold winters. We have the power to elect the next district attorney. We have the power to elect the next Congress, the power to elect the next president. Because of Independence Bridge, the blood of the innocent in Selma, Alabama. Today we look at a new South. This day has been a long time coming. If the white vote their economic interests and not their racial fears, if blacks vote hope and not despair, we can recapture the American dream. For the record, We're losing great races for the margin of despair. 1960, Kennedy beat Nixon by 112,000 votes. Less than one vote per precinct. Every vote matters. Carter beat Ford by 1,000,006. Every vote matters. Dr. King killed April 4, 68. Robert Kennedy killed June the 5th. Did not our hearts bleed? Despair abounded. We dropped our rods, hung our harps on the willows, and by that margin, Richard Nixon won. When you drop your harps and cease the joy of your music, you lose great races by the margin of despair. 1992, Bush. 1996, Dole got more white votes than Clinton. He got more white, black, and brown votes than they got, and he won. When we vote, we determine presidents. When our vote is stopped, as it was in Florida, we lose. So our vote, a non-vote, determines the course of our country. Today we're in a new South. We can play ball together. Alabama plays Mississippi on a Saturday afternoon. They knew in New South. But for the record, in the New South, most poor people are not black. We speak of black belt, but there are many white belts. There are more whites in Appalachia than there are blacks in America. That's a white belt. Whether white or black, when they turn the lights out, and your plants go to a cheap labor base, we all look amazing and similar in the dark. In the end, the issue is not black and white, it is dark and light. The New South must turn the lights on. Pillar text in Kannapolis, North Carolina, with the work one Wednesday morning, plant gate closed without notice. Because those workers voted against their interests. They voted for right to work laws. They voted for the right not to have a place at the table. They voted for darkness, and darkness they got. Most poor people are not black, they're white, female, and young. But whether white, black, or brown, hunger hurts. Most poor folks are not on welfare. They work every day. You catch it early, boss. They raise other people's children. They work in fast food restaurants. They do day labor. They cook in our schools. They're chauffeurs. They work in the hospitals. They're oilers and they're aides. They mop the germs off the floor. They wipe the bodies of the sick and cool their scorching fever, yet when they get sick, they cannot lie in the bed they make up every day. It's time for a change. Keep on marching the young and rich. We're better off go to the big universities and get degrees. Jessica Lynch and Shoshana Johnson, the poor go to Iraq and get medals, and the rich get no-bid contracts. And offshore oil breaks. We've been led from surplus to deficit. We should vote in November to give Bush time to come back to Alabama and finish his National Guard duty. Am I here by myself? Look at the phases of this struggle. I'm 62, my father would have been 96. His parents were in slavery. and 3 generations out of slavery. Slavery is not a blur. I don't refer to our foreparents as slaves. There were foreparents and ancestors who were enslaved. They were people. They were parents to which we have subjective congenital ties to. Foreparents enslaved who survived it. The long dark nadir. There is a frame, students of reference. 1619, 1719, 1819, 1865, 246 years of legal constitutional slavery. That's not the immigrant tradition. Illegal to learn to read and write. Illegal to marry. Illegal to have church service on Sunday morning. Talking I can't celebrate because I'm a fugitive from slavery. You guys have been talking freedom now for 76 years, since 1776. And here I stand today, if I get caught, they can take me away from here. I better not talk too much. And 5 years later, Dred Scott found it out. Supreme Court said blacks no right, whites bound to respect. So July 4th, 1852 was a day of protest. But as July 4th, 1863, Lincoln declared freedom in January the 1st. But strange enough, he could not free the South, blacks in the South, because he had no power in the South. And then the right wing took him on. There was a war called Gettysburg. Gettysburg ended July 4th, 1863. We can celebrate that July 4th. So now July 4th, our foreparents left and joined the Union Army to defeat the Confederates and to stop secession, slavery and segregation. July 4th, 1863 has meaning. On that day, we defeated the Confederates in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Y'all bear with me for a moment. So there's something called what's your goal? And that will hold in the tent. Then there's something within the law called freedom of choice. Strange that people confuse choice and faith with law. Say we live. Say we live. We live in our faith. We will live within our faith. We live within our freedom. We live within our choices. We live under the law. Now watch this. We had faith in slavery. But until the law changed, we were not free. We had faith on the back of the bus. But until the law changed, we couldn't ride in front. We had faith in Brown Chapel. But until the law changed, we could not vote. I'm concerned about this a strange kind of conservatism, even among blacks who put so much focus on faith. And resist confronting bad law. Faith, people fight bad law. Dr. King said people of faith, fight unjust law. That's what made Dr. King different was people of faith led a boycott. People of faith marched in Birmingham. People of faith marched in Selma. People of faith act out their faith and change their objective condition. Today, say today, we have freedom, without equality. If there's not one black appellate judge in Alabama, we're free. If there's not one district attorney black in Alabama, we're free, but without equality. If there's a multi-billion-dollar pension fund in Alabama, we don't manage a dime of our money. We're free but not equal. You look at the faculty, University of Alabama in Auburn. You look at the deans. You look at the football coaches. We are free. We've gone from picking cotton balls to picking footballs. We are free, generating capital, but not equal. We still, a black and a white with the same degree. A black makes 25% less than a white with the same degree. So we work harder, say work harder, for less, because the predators pay more, for less, live under stress, and don't live as long. Therefore, the struggle goes on. Y'all bear with me a minute. Freedom without equality is yet goals unmet to be fulfilled. So we should not leave here saying back in the civil rights days. This is no museum. This is a way station. The struggle today is beyond the bridge. It's not at the bridge, it's beyond the bridge. Today we fight gaps. A gap between black and white education. The gap between access to medical school, access to law school, access to land, access to owning radio and TV stations, access. Today we address in the New South, say New South. We address the portion we need. What do we need today? Beyond the right to vote, we need a constitutional amendment for equal high quality education for all of us. We need today an amendment, Constitution, equal high quality education, illegal. So whether you're living in the Black Belt or living in the suburbs, living in Appalachia or living in Westchester, we're all Americans under one flag, under that premise. Today the poor go to war, better off go to college, the rich get no bid contracts. We must change these gaps. What's different today, Rose, is that we once marched out of the margin. Today we can march our way out of poverty. Today we can march our way out of poverty. The whites vote their interests rather than their fears, and blacks vote hope and not despair. We can change the course. What do I mean by that? God lives, he lives in my soul. I will not hang my heart on the willow. I will not stop singing with my joy. I will not let them take my joy. Every high school senior can now come across that stage with the diploma in one hand and border card in the other and choose lower tuition in college.
I mean, you can do whatever you want. The composition doesn't represent your own skill, just the technology. Well, Jesse was at the top of his game. Oh, yeah. You know, the stuff he says.